everybody, and welcome to the virtual lesson, which today is going to be about Reading 1. I have put in front of you some questions that I hope to cover in this evening's presentation. The first question is, what is Reading 1? And I'm referring to the first stage of beginning reading. I'm asking, how do you teach a new letter? How do you, as a teacher, those of you who teach beginning reading, how do you teach or introduce a new letter? And we will see how we teach new letters in the Time to Know program. And the third question is, what is the added value of the Time to Know program? What does the program offer that you maybe don't get in a regular classroom? Before I continue, I would like to mention a few things about the background of Reading 1. What do we mean when we say Reading 1? We're talking about the very, very beginning stage, the very first stage of learning to read. This is usually in the second year of teaching English. If we're talking about in Israel teaching English as a foreign language or a second language, we usually have at least the first year where the students are exposed to the language in an oral way. Once they have this kind of a basis, then they are ready to start learning the basics of reading. And when we refer to the basics of reading, we are often referring to a phonics program. Research has shown that this is definitely the best way for teaching reading. And this is the way you will see that we teach in the Time to Know program. It's actually a combination of phonics as well as introducing the students to sight words. When we teach beginning reading, we appeal to all the senses of the children. We appeal to their visual, we appeal to the auditory, we appeal to the kinesthetic sense. And all of these senses are done in the classroom. But the one sense that has its limitations in the classroom is the auditory sense. We can do a lot of visual, we can do a lot of kinesthetic, moving around with the children, excuse me. But the auditory has its limitations, as I said, in the classroom. And this is where Time to Know program, as I will show you, has a lot of wonderful examples of auditory, both in the frontal work and in the individual work that the students do. The other point that I want to make about the Time to Know program is that we believe in blended learning. And by this, I mean not only the work that the children do on the computer, but also connecting it with working in the workbooks and also in the handouts that the students do. And now I'm going to the home page of Time to Know. A lot of you will be familiar with it from the Daf HaBayit, and from there I'm going to move to Tichnun, which is the planning stage. Most of you again are familiar with that. And I'm looking at the reading program, which comes in under Kita Daled, grade 4 of the Time to Know program. But I will just mention to you that some of the schools in Israel already start the first stage of reading in third grade, in Kita Gimel. So this is what the teacher's shelf will look like. And here you can see are the order that the Time to Know program teaches the letters. We start off over here with an exposure to the ABC, just so that they're visually aware that the letters are there, that they look different, they hear the song of the ABC, just a holistic approach, a general introduction. And after that, we introduce the letters. You can see the order of the letters, T-I-P-N-S. Except for the first few letters, the letters follow the same process or follow the same order, in that we teach the letter, then we teach it within a word on the word level, and then we build up a story. And of course each letter is based on the previously learned letters or words or stories. I'm going to start off with the letter S, and I'm going to take you down to the story, and remembering that this is the first story that the students are doing, and it's based on the letters of T, I, P, N, and S. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you into a real lesson so that we can actually see the story. And just remembering that it's based on only 5 letters. And the reason why I'm showing you this is at the very end I'm going to show you the very last story, so you can compare how they start off at the beginning and where they are at the end. I also want to remind you that in the Time to Know program we work on vocabulary and we also work on reading comprehension. I'm not going to show you all the features of the story, narration and highlight. I'm going to show you that later on when I focus on my one letter, which will be the example of which I'm going to show you. So this is again the first story. I'll just flip through quickly so you can have some idea of the very, very first story, and imagine that excitement that the children have where they've gone from the letter to the words and they are now reading their very first story. I'm going to take you back to the teacher's shelf. And back to the letters that we have. Okay, T-I-P-N-S-A-D-H-C-K-B-O-R. I've chosen B because it's sort of one of the beginning or middle letters that we teach, and again, as I said earlier on, once you have seen how one group or one cluster of letters is taught, you'll be able to work out how all the others work. And for those of you who already know the program, I'm not showing you every part of the program. The emphasis, I'll remind you, is on the auditory aspect. Okay, so if we look, you can see the letter lesson, the word lesson, and the story lesson. And obviously I'm going to start with the letter lesson. I'm going to show you the top train, just to remind you, is called an LA, a learning activity. And for each LA there are a number of AIs, activity items. And each lesson follows the same format in that there is an engage and there are two practice activities. If you look at the icon, you will see that the engage is something that we do frontally, whereas the practice is something that's done individually. And again, the teacher has choices. These are all the options that she has available to do frontally, but she can choose exactly what she wants to do for her lesson. So each lesson starts in the letter lesson with the ABC song. It starts with the alphabet, and here you have a chart where you can review the previously learned letters that are missing. And then we come to the animation. I am going to show you the animation because this is a wonderful way of introducing the letter. Let me just get to it. And while I'm showing you the animation, I want you to think of all the different activities, of all the different ways and ideas that you would have if you were teaching this or using this to teach your letter. I'll just take off the sound over here, make it bigger.
A banana balloon.
Just to make you aware of the order, it started off with the name, the sound of the letter, then they made words, they use it in a sentence. We showed the students how to write the letter. You can be aware of the different skills that are being involved. The teacher can stop off and let the children practice writing, putting the letters, writing on each other's backs in the air. I don't have to go on any further. I'm sure you've got lots of ideas of your own. Okay, that's the animation, and each letter is introduced in a similar kind of a way. And then we have the preparation for the activities that the students do on their own. So let's have a look at practice one. The first AI shows the students what they've already learned. It reviews it. Listen and repeat is a recording activity. Find the letter 1 and 2 are matching capital and small letters. And these are activities that are similar to regular activities that the students might do in the workbook, except here they're getting it on the computer. So I'm not going to open any of those AIs. I'm going to move to practice 2, and I'm going to open the first AI, which is where's the sound, because here we have the emphasis on the auditory. It's just taking a little while to load up here. I'll just go out of it and try one more time. Okay, there we go. I'll just take off the sound, which is muted, and make it larger so you can see. Now the other thing that I want to show you over here is that there are instructions for the students in English and in Hebrew. And obviously at this stage your students will be using it in Hebrew, but to encourage them to use the instructions, even if they think they know what they're doing, because sometimes they don't listen and the instructions might change along the way and they might make mistakes. So it's important to encourage them to use the instructions. Again, the emphasis here is on the auditory.
Ball.
They have to find something that has, one of the pictures that has the same sound as the beginning of ball, the letter B.
Tennis. Pink. Bulb. Duck.
Okay, and another added value that they're getting here is they are hearing the words, and sometimes they are learning vocabulary, for example, the word tennis or maybe the word pink. And the student can realize that the same sound at the beginning of ball is bulb. He can check his work and then continue to the next activity, which follows the same pattern, matching the sound of the picture with one of the words that we have in the pictures below. Now you have a slightly different activity. Choose the picture that begins with the B sound.
Book.
Again, if they don't know the words,
Spoon.
the computer's going to help them.
Banana.
They choose the answers and check. I'm not going to go through that. Again, a new activity.
P.
Auditory discrimination, and we're going back and we are reviewing some of the other sounds that the students have learned. So you'll see over here that there are different activities. This is also an important activity because we are taking the letter B and we're also reviewing the letter P, and these were specially chosen because these are letters that the students often confuse.
Pink.
They can hear the word,
Pink.
take the picture, put it in its correct place, and so on. You'll be able to work that out. Okay. Then we have where's the sound to. And here the students are now having to connect the sound of the example. I'll just make it bigger again. Okay, connect the sound of the picture that they are hearing.
Boots. Boots.
And now they have to start recognizing the letter, dragging it in, and checking their work. Okay, so again the auditory, but together with being able to recognize the letters, the visual. And here we have a little bit on a slightly higher level where they get 3 words.
Doctor. Brother. Park.
And one by one
Doctor.
they have to match up the letter that goes with each sound. Listen to
Brother.
the sound, match up the letter that goes with the sound.
Park.
And it doesn't matter if they know the meaning or not, because at this stage we're just purely working on the reading. Same kind of activity, and as the students go along they check their work. And now we've gone up another level.
kangaroo,
And here the students have to actually write in the letter, the first letter that they are hearing, and again they will check their work. I'm not going to do it all for you because I'm sure you're able to work out how this is done. Then we go up to the third level. Where's the sound number 3? Okay. And now what's important is what I said earlier on, that the students listen to the instructions. Okay, again, I'm not going to go through all these activities. It's similar to what they've done before, but here the students are going to be working on the end sound. So in the first activity is beginning sounds, and now we're working on the end sounds in terms of sounds and also getting to know the letters. And we end off with 2 matching games. 2 games that the children do, and we'll go on to the next lesson, which is the word lesson, also to do with the letter B. Switch it off. Let's go. Let's go. לא, צריך לסגור, זה לא בי, אני לא יודעת למה.
אוקיי, אני אערוך את זה אחרי זה, תמשיכי. תעשי מה שאת רוצה ותדברי, תמשיכי לדבר בהקשר למה שאת רואה, כאילו...
אוקיי.
אם את רואה, את לא צריכה להגיד שתהי, כאילו פשוט תגיעי למה שאת רוצה, ומשם תמשיכי לדבר.
כי זה הגיע לאות שאני לא יודעת איך זה הגיע. אוקיי. אבל כל פעם אני חוזרת ל-B words, רציתי פשוט להמשיך. Okay, lesson 2, as we see over here, is the lesson that covers the words. We move up from the letter level to the words. Of course, all the time going back and reviewing the previously learned letters and sounds. Again, we start off with the engage. We have the letter B here, which the teacher can use however she wants. We've got a let's read, which I'll come back to, and we've got build the words, which you use with letter cards. This AI let's read, teachers often skip out, and they often don't do because they don't realize that this is an important part of the frontal teaching, because now you're actually teaching the words and letting them practice the words. So I'm just going to move to Nihul Shi'ur so that you'll be able to see that more clearly. And here the students are going to be making the sound. The teachers often say, oh, but what happens with the sound here? We don't hear anything. Yes, you're right, you don't hear anything, because the students are the ones who are reading, and they're the ones who are, so to speak, making the noise, but doing the work. So you start off with the letter that you're doing, letter B. Okay, and then you get words added, so you've got to stop and decide how you're going to teach this. One student's going to read, many students, and let it go on with the option of pausing it, where you're introducing the letters using the letter B, and of course together with all sorts of other letters that you have already taught the students, building up the words. The other point that I just want to emphasize here is that the emphasis is on phonics, sounding out the words. The students don't have to know the meanings, and sometimes the words are not real words. Of course you can tell them the meaning if they're very interested in knowing that, but the emphasis here is on just decoding, being able to just read the words. So that is an important point to remember. Again, we have the practice 1 and 2 that the students do. The first practice 1 is the listen and repeat, which is a recording exercise. Some teachers really enjoy it, others found it makes some noise. So I'm going to the words and sounds. Again, the words and sounds that emphasize the phonics approach of the Time to Know program. I'll just take off the mute so we can hear the sound, because again the emphasis here is on the auditory skills. And again, to listen to the instructions. Okay, so we've moved up from the letter level, as you can clearly see, to the word. The children have to listen to the word, listen to the sound, find the word that has that, go through all the words, choose the one that has that. For example, they make a mistake, The computer gives them a chance to try it again. They can listen again a second time. They're still not sure, they can listen however many times they want, check, and so they can go on. And now, as you can see, we're working on the word level. And as you can see from the instructions, we're working on the beginning sounds of the letters. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of that because you can see that on your own. I'm just going to close that. And now we're moving on to what's the word. Again, I'm not going to spend time on this one. The students also have to match up the sound with the word. With the emphasis on the auditory aspect of the Time to Know program, I'm going to show you the AR of what's the word. I'll just take the sound, make it bigger. This is the example I'm taking you to frame number 4.
Pan. Pan.
The students hear it, they can hear it again and again, and now they have to match up the word that goes with that sound. Also notice that the previous words were in capital letters, big letters, and now they're in small letters. So it's a combination to help the students being exposed to both kinds of letters, capital and small letters. And the last activity that we have here are the words and sounds. This is in practice 1. And again, if you look at these activities, this is a lot of work on phonemic awareness, which is something that's very, very difficult for us to do with the students in the classroom.
Cab. Cab. Ah.
This is a very, very difficult exercise, so much so that some teachers choose not to do it. Again, I'm a great believer in phonemic awareness, and I think that this is something not to give up on. And the children then have to build up the letter according to the sounds of the letter. Again, phonemic awareness, and a wonderful way to practice it. I'm not going to go on and show you the other examples. You can see them on your own. I'm now going to move to practice 2. We've got a variety of AIs. Again, I'm not going to go into all of them. We've got spell the words, blend the words, rhyme time, play with words, search your words. I'm just going to go in the ones that have the auditory emphasis. And this is taking us up a level where the students now have to not only be able to read the words, but they actually have to be able to spell the words. So again, they listen to the instructions.
קראו את האותיות כדי לאיית את המילה שאתם שומעים.
They hear the word,
Bat.
good practice, and they drag the letters and so on, so that they actually form the letters. And like in all the previous activities, the computer is going to check the work for the students. That's really important in terms of the spelling, in terms of the children's writing. We've also got blend the words, and we've also got rhyme time, which rhyme time is excellent practice for the auditory skills, and this is often difficult for the students, but this is really something that's worth doing in order to learn the words. So now we have finished the lesson, the second lesson, which is the lesson on the letters. And now we move on to the final lesson, which is called the story lesson. And this is always a very, very exciting time for the students, because they are now getting to the level of the fact that they are now able to read a story. And of course, as I said to you before, the words are based on the words that they've learned in the letter, it's based on the words that the students have learned of the letter B, as well as all the letters and words that have come before. Sorry, wrong lesson. Stop, start again. So finally we come to the letter B, story lesson, which, as I said, is the most exciting part for the students, where they can read a story. and the vocabulary, the words, are based on the letter words of B, as well as other words that have come before in previous letters and in previous stories. So let's go to this lesson, which is our last lesson on the B story. Again, the first part of the lesson is the engage part of the lesson, where the students learn the vocabulary frontally. I won't go over that. That's something the teacher does with the students. But I do want to show you the different ways that we can use any story that goes with any letter in the time to know. I didn't show you this in the first one that I showed, but now I'm going to show you with the letter B, Bab's band. So again, the teacher starts off here with the pictures, and she can use this introduction however she wants. She has this available to her. You can think of the ideas of what you would do, how you would use it. And then she's going to read the story. Of course, the story can be read once for the class using the narration and highlight, which I'll show you. Or the teacher can read the story the first time. She can get the students. The options are endless. This is a wonderful feature, the narration as well as the highlight. And if we start on the story, click on here. Let's try over here. Bab's band.
Bab's band. This is Bab. Bab is a bat. Bab has a band. It's the pink banana band. Sid the cat is in the band. Sid has a pink cap.
I'm just going to stop here, but you get the idea of how you can use the narration. Notice that it goes at its own pace, and you can get the narration to have the story read to the students, and then you've also got the option of the highlight separately or with the narration. And this is now the story that the students are reading from the letter B, some of these animals or characters they've met in previous stories. And the emphasis is also going to be here on understanding the story. So then we come to practice 1, where the students practice the vocabulary, they learn to write the words, and then they read the story on their own, or the students can listen to it however you decide they should do it. And at this point I want to mention that in Time to Know we encourage homework as much as possible, and because we all know the importance of reading at the beginning level and how essential it is that the students practice, this is a wonderful opportunity to leave this activity unlocked and let the students go home and practice it with their parents. It can be a very exciting time for them, an important practice. Now moving to practice 2. And here you have again a record where the students can listen and repeat, but what I do want to emphasize, even though I won't open them for you, is that you have 2 comprehension activities, because I said in the beginning it's not only the being able to decode and mechanically read the words. It's not enough just to know the vocabulary. The students have to understand what they're reading, and after reading the story you have 2 activities that will check the students' comprehension, so the teacher can be aware of the students' understanding of the story. The other point that I just want to mention over here, which comes in all the lessons, is this homework LA. It looks like this, sort of a pencil behind here, and these are the handouts that go with each lesson. And this connects up with what I said earlier on about making sure that the students have blended learning, that they do work in their workbooks or notebooks, and also do regular kind of writing, not only on the computers. So I'm going to close this lesson, and we'll go back to our letters. And remember that the cluster of B came together with B, O, and R. And at the end of each cluster you also have an assessment, which is a way of testing the students. And also there is a reteaching lesson if you feel that some or all of your students need further practice. I would like to go back to my teacher's shelf and take you to our very last letters, which are Q, X, and Z, or X, Q, and Z in that correct order. The letters that are less frequently used. and to show you the very last story. So if you remember the first story that I showed you, and you can compare it to the very last story that the students get to, remembering that we want them to, by the end of 4th grade, be able to decode, to be able to read this and also understand what they are reading. I'm just going to put this in Nihul Shiur. And if you remember, in between, in the B story, they read about the pink band. And you can see the kind of level that we would like them to get to by the end of 4th grade in terms of decoding reading, and also in terms of the vocabulary understanding. And please note also that the words are not only words that are CVC words, 3-letter words, but we try and get them to already have consonant blends in 4th grade, the S, so they have the opportunity to read letters, or words, sorry, that are 4 and 5 letters long. So again, this is what we're hoping for them to be able to decode and understand by the time they get to the end of 4th grade. So I want to just end off with going back to the questions that I posed at the beginning. What is Reading 1? And here I showed you the time to know's approach to Reading 1. You saw how we teach or learn a new letter, and I did the letter B as an example. And all the examples of the AIs that I opened were ones that showed the added value of the Time to Know program with emphasis on the auditory skill. So thank you very much for being with me, and I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Bye.